Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And if you've been paying attention to the internet the past couple of days, a little bit more than 24 hours, you know that the latest big conspiracy scandal is something called Wayfair Gate or Wayfair. Now, before I made a ruling on this one way or another, I wanted to find out more information, as many of us have succumbed to hoaxes in the past. For instance, the CMEX hoax, where supposedly, these guys had gone down to this child trafficking site and it was owned by the Bronfmans, and conspiracy theories ran awry, so much so that Craig Sawyer went down there, and when he talked to local law enforcement, when he saw who was making these claims, he realized it was really part of the mass mental illness that has been brought to us by the Q Brigade. And if anybody saw my tweets from last night, I want people to understand that I am not endorsing this yet. I think there might be some validity to parts of it. But as you can see, the first thing I said is, someone please debunk this. And it is a video of a woman basically saying that this is a kid being trafficked and not a $10,000 cabinet. I don't think the cabinet's worth $10,000. Then there are a multitude of screenshots on and off of $10,000 for a pillow down to $30. And then, of course, missing children that are apparently being found in these things. However, there's a lot to debunk this already. And there's a lot to debunk about the Q craziness that has infected the internet. And that's why I wanted to bring on Robbie Martin of MediaRoots.org and a very heavy agenda.com. You need to go check him out over there right now. Make sure you're also following him on Twitter. But if you haven't seen the video series, A Very Heavy Agenda, it's also the name of his YouTube channel where he does main politics. Of course, the podcast is usually with him and Abby Martin. However, his latest one is on its own, and it is all about the origins of Q. So without further ado, I want to thank Robbie Martin for joining me. And how are you today, sir?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I'm good, man. I got to tell you, I'm feeling a little bit more of that freedom they keep telling me about in America by being out here in the Midwest and traveling through the country and getting away from places like New York. I've actually had quite a few people out in California see that I was on the road and reach out to me and say, hey, you're coming all the way west? And I'm like, no, no, I'm not. I am certainly not. No offense, but you guys are just as bad, if not worse, than us. So, Robbie, how are you holding up during this whole COVID-19 84 nonsense in a state that is now, again, getting more and more restrictive?
I mean, I've been relatively okay, just personally speaking. My lifestyle mostly revolves around me being at home. So in that regard, it's been okay. But I think what bothers me most about this situation is the confusion and the sort of the chaotic climate that we're still all in. And I guess I just keep going back to this idea that this whole debate of locking things down versus opening things back up, to me, is just the framing of it is manufactured because it's skipping over, basically giving people some kind of universal basic income. And I feel that's kind of remarkable to me, how that argument or that point of view has just disappeared from the debate. I mean, let's just talk about it in the sense of there's a global pandemic still happening. And the idea that universal healthcare or healthcare is serious or a serious issue anymore is just off the table. It's like, now that Bernie's campaign is over, I guess that debate is just gone, and it's quite sad. And I think what this bores out, though, Jason. We've been talking for a while, and I'm sure you agree with me on this, that we've been witnessing to an extent the decline of the American empire and sort of its desperate throes to try to maintain that power. I think that this situation in the end will just basically further erode. I mean, it's going to be in some ways like sort of the final death blow in terms of America acting like it has this first world, status, that it has its crap together, that it's competent. This is kind of, it's just laying it all out for the world to see that we are a completely incompetent, mess of a country, and we have really no right claiming to be, at the level that we claim to be. So it's just, to me, it's kind of just an embarrassment, but I think it's also good. I mean, it's tragic that all these people have died, obviously, but in some ways it's good that I think the rest of the world can see what America really is right now.
Well, as you know, and I was having a political discussion with someone I'm going to have on the show who, has just a plethora of accolades along the mainstream media and mainline talking, et cetera, et cetera. And she was talking about China and India and America and all their different places in the world and geopolitics. But at the end of the day, to me, it is a predator class at the top that is promoting a similar agenda as they are in China here in medical martial law. Why are we handling this like China did instead of, say, how Japan did or how Taiwan did? And why are we saying, hey, we need a vaccine? Okay, are what? They say less than 50% effective. Let me repeat that to you. For the influenza A and B vaccine this year, anybody can look it up, it is less than 50% effective, and the H1N1 strain, that's right, the swine flu strain, because that was one of the strains here, it was only 37% effective by their own numbers. Fauci also had to admit a couple weeks back when actually being grilled by a Democrat, he said, well, how many vaccines actually make it to market once they're under there? And he goes, well, more don't make it than do. He's like, about 6%, right? And he's like, yeah, that's right. So when he says more make it than not, we're talking about 6% success rate. The quickest we've ever made a vaccine was, I believe, the Zika vaccine, which we didn't use, which was under 2 years, just under 2 years. But the average time is 7 years for a vaccine that works. All came out of Fauci's mouth. All will not make headlines in this country. And I think that speaks to the stranglehold the media has on this country. Now, on the flip side of that, it seems like certain media companies are promoting this idea of QAnon. And you recently did a full broadcast on this. So why don't you just start stepping us through what you found studying the Q phenomenon?
Okay. Well, I should probably just say it was frozen for most of the time you were just talking. So I'm not sure what you said. I only heard the tail end of your question.
Gotcha.
So hopefully it doesn't freeze again. But I mean, yeah, Jason, what I'm seeing is the mainstreamification of QAnon. I mean, we've sort of already seen it evolving this way for maybe the past 6 months. But now it's sort of undeniable that QAnon has reached a mainstream status. And I think one of the biggest indicators of that is that as of right now, I think there are over 55 congressional candidates running in the United States who are open QAnon followers. And by that, I mean, they actually have QAnon listed as campaign issues on their website. These people have taken the QAnon oath. And let me just explain what that is really quickly. Up until this point, Jason, QAnon, we've both said that maybe it could be dangerous, but it seems for the most part like it's just leading people down these wild goose chases, these rabbit holes, carrot on a stick, promising that Hillary Clinton was going to be arrested in its fourth posting from 2017. It obviously still hasn't happened yet. I guess Q supporters are still holding out that that's going to happen. But the real danger, I think, right now is that we've actually seen Q go from, what I described to actually asking people to take an oath of allegiance to it. That's a whole new step in a dangerous direction, I think. And when you see people like Michael Flynn and his whole family taking the oath on video, that's quite serious, I think. And it raises a real issue of, is the Trump administration or are people loyal to Trump actually running this? Because at a certain point, Jason, you have to ask yourself, why would the Trump administration, why would these people close to Trump be promoting this if they don't know if tomorrow it's going to turn on them and say that they're both deep state pedophiles? On some level, they must know who this is. They must trust it, which is odd because I get the sense that the Trump administration didn't even entirely trust Alex Jones and InfoWars. They kind of brushed him to the side at a certain point. You know, they used him. Roger Stone obviously groomed Alex Jones to becoming a part of the Trump campaign, literally. And then they kind of brushed him aside. They don't really promote him that much anymore, but they promote Q all the time in these different ways. And that raises the question of, if they can't trust Alex Jones enough, why are they trusting an anonymous 4chan poster to this degree? So I think that alone to me tells me that it's somehow connected to the Trump administration. And
Now,
what's strange too, Jason, is a lot of these people who also disown Q, you know, like someone like Cassandra Fairbanks, she's out there now promoting the Wayfair thing. And it's like, well, I thought you thought Q was fake, but now you're actually still pushing something that is a QAnon narrative. So it's this sly game that these people play where they're like, no, QAnon's fake. That's BS. But Assange is actually being laundered. He's safe. You know, like you'll see Scott Adams and Cernovich saying this like a month or two after they disown Q. And it's like, but that is the Q narrative. You're literally saying that Assange isn't safe, that he's been whisked away secretly for some secret meeting with Donald Trump, that he's a hero and he's not being arrested. But that's the QAnon narrative. So I think a lot of these people are playing a clever game where they know that QAnon, the brand, is tainted, but they still want to push the QAnon narratives because they basically help glue all this stuff together. They help distract people. They help keep all these former Trump supporters who loved Assange away from actually being concerned that Assange is rotting away in a jail cell. And that's really sad.
It's dangerous. And Robbie, here's the thing, you know, and the reason I'm doing Wayfair with this is because, like you said, it's the QAnoners that are posting this and promoting this narrative, just like they continue to promote the imagination land delusional narrative that somehow Tom Hanks wasn't on the Today Show the other day. It must have been a clone, or I don't know, because you guys have a mental illness, and that he's somehow in Guantanamo Bay and a confirmed pedophile. You know, that's all going through this. And when I see those things, and those are the people promoting Wayfair, I question what's going on there. So again, I asked people to debunk this. I've gotten a few things. I want to show some people this. Now, first of all, the one girl who is supposedly kidnapped, okay, was named, I believe it was, what was her name? Samaya. Now, I posted yesterday, she's already, the Samaya that they put in the photos has already come out and made several videos going, hey guys, I'm not missing. I was never trafficked. This is complete insanity. So then on the flip side of that, someone else posts, well, there's another Samaya that went missing. I got news for you guys. She was found safe. So I want to thank my audience members that are using discernment and sending me these stuff, but all of this is available. Anybody can check this out. In fact, I'm going to go to this tweet right now so you can see. I'm gonna silence her.
Who are you?
Of course, it's gonna see. That's why I didn't want to put it, because we get all that. We're on the road, and you saw how that went. Who are you? I mean, she is very upset. And if my face as a teenager was all over the internet that I had been sexually trafficked, and I hadn't, I'd probably be very upset. So, yeah, there might be something weird going on, but we knew, for instance, when those DNC emails came out, and WikiLeaks said, look for human trafficking, and you had emails like the Lozado email that was forwarded to Bethesda and others of an 8, 9, and 11-year-old being in a pool for entertainment. That's something we need to look at. But then all of a sudden, Robbie, all of these anonymous posters were literally trolling, and things like the menu made their way to the internet, which were obviously fake. And I feel like this is a well-coordinated operation to continue to promote this narrative that somehow Trump is taking down pedophiles on a massive level, when that isn't the case. I've got to ask you, is there any original research that you have found from QAnon at all that has been proven? In other words, not him talking or hinting about Epstein, a story that was around since 2008, 2009, not saying trust the plan or that Hillary's going to be arrested, etc. Is there literally anything that they have put out that has been original research or been proven to be true?
No, not a single thing I can think of, Jason. And part of that reason is because Q talks in breadcrumbs. So a lot of what we're seeing online are people interpreting these quote unquote breadcrumbs and then sort of spinning out into their own conspiracy alleyways of their own theory. So Like, for instance, you brought up the Tom Hanks thing. I don't even know if QAnon actually said anything specifically about that. I think at this point, the followers have gotten so obsessed that it's like they're reading tea leaves. They're trying to decipher this, like, throwing sticks on the ground, like the I Ching, to figure out what the plan is at this point. And the plan morphs every day. I mean, I saw a month ago, I'm sure you saw this too, that Ellen wore looked like some hipster artist, sweatshirt that had like a weird little red face scrawl on the side. It looked like something you'd buy in like a Brooklyn hipster art store. And everyone was like, that's the Wilson volleyball blood image in Castaway. This is a pedo code. This is somehow connected to Tom Hanks not, being dead. And it just keeps going and going and going. And it's like, I don't, it's at a certain point, it's like, is this a joke? Is someone just playing a prank on everybody? I mean, this Wayfair cabinet thing, it's like, obviously there's something bizarre about the fact that these products are being sold on the internet for such high prices. That's bizarre. But like, that's where my brain ends in terms of like trying to figure that out. It's like, yeah, that's a weird thing. Let's maybe figure out why that is. But to jump from that to the idea that these are objects that are actually secret code for you buy one on the internet and you're getting a child. I mean, it's just flies in the face of logic. Like, if you're going to actually sex traffic children online, you would probably be doing it on the deep web, first of all.
Thank you. And listen, Robbie, like you just said, it's not like we're discounting all of it, but we know that there are people that can get into database systems and change information. I believe Wayfair is an Amazon-esque site where third parties are on there selling their own goods. So it's not like it's all just coming from Wayfair, aka
Sure.
You set up your own store. So really all you need is a couple of tech-savvy trolls to get in there, start it, and then one of them post this and let it go viral. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the chat and those deluded Q followers that are in it. When I was asking for something that they had provided for original research, somebody who was mentally ill and very ignorant typed in Nexium and John of God. I got fucking news for you. No. Nexium, if you want to go back to when that was first exposed, you could go back over a decade to the Times-Union newspaper in Albany. Okay, that's when people started reporting on it. Local news. Nothing to do with fantasies on message boards and white hats that are going to save you on behalf of Donald Trump. Zero. As with the John of God information. It almost makes me want to puke in my mouth. And then I see somebody goes, well, then we shouldn't study anything that Q tells us? I'm saying it's a scam. There are times that he puts out these breadcrumbs that obviously are going to lead you to some valid information, but it's not original research. It's not original information. Anybody could put it out there and they could make a fucking coherent sentence explaining it rather than putting out 2 words and having a bunch of people froth at the mouth and think that we're saved. We don't have to do anything. I got news for you. You got to do stuff. You got to get out there and you got to protest, scream, shout. This administration is about to take Julian Assange in on a bogus 17-part indictment and put him in prison forever for exposing the war crimes of the predator class. That's the reality, Robbie.
No, just speaking to your viewers for a second, if anyone's still a subscriber of Q and they're angry or upset at any of the things we're saying, I would just say, I believe Q is not a LARP. Like, I used to think it was completely a LARP, a live action role play, that it was a total prank. I've come to the place where believing it's not a LARP, but it's obviously a total con. So, I mean, I think there's actually a lot of value still in analyzing Q's posts and following it from the perspective of, why is this massive con job? What is it trying to do? What is its goal? Where is it going? Analyzing from that perspective, I think, is actually really important. But actually letting a Pied Piper sort of conspiracy person leaving breadcrumbs online to lead you and to actually guide you in terms of what conspiracy research you should be doing, that's just you sort of letting go of your own autonomy. Like, imagine how much more of an awesome and strong position the conspiracy movement would be in right now if it didn't let Pied Piper figures like Alex Jones and QAnon lead them down into these paths. I think we would have a lot more of a variety of research, a lot more narratives out there to sift through that would be differing from each other. Because right now, what Q has essentially done is it's coalesced the entire conspiracy movement into this bizarre idea that Trump is the hero in opposition to all these bad people. And, you know, it's just so obviously cartoonish on its face, because we can even just take it back to Epstein. Like, Q's posts since Ghislaine Maxwell's gone to jail are all just pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell with Bill Clinton. I mean, how disingenuous is that? It's like, we already know that Epstein was deep with both men. I mean, there's so any attempt, you know, for Q to just make it seem like it's all about the Democrats, it's clearly has some kind of agenda, because anybody who is really interested in taking down this so-called deep state would make it a completely bipartisan affair. So actually QAnon, if you look at his early post, or her early post, whoever it is from 2 years ago, they're actually sort of using that old school, the left-right paradigm as a scam, Jason, kind of like what drew us to Alex Jones originally. Like, this is not about left versus right. This is not about Democrat versus Republican. Q was very clear about that in the beginning, and I think that's how he got people sucked in. And now it's very partisan. Like, it's unmistakably partisan. It becomes more partisan by the day. You even see, like, for example, Tucker Carlson becoming even more partisan as it gets, let's just say, gets closer to the election. So if you really want to know what this is all about, you want to look at it from the perspective of this might be some kind of aspect of Trump's campaign or administration, I think we can expect QAnon to become more partisan, more sort of electoral politics driven as it moves forward. And it's going to be very predictable. And I think this Wayfair thing, essentially the way I'm seeing it is there's some Wayfair connection to Ghislaine Maxwell. There's obviously a Trump connection to Ghislaine Maxwell. So why not just make it seem like there's this crazier, more over-the-top conspiracy happening over here that eclipses everything Ghislaine Maxwell might have been involved in? Because if there's children being sold in cabinets on a website, that kind of makes the whole Ghislaine Maxwell thing not really that big. I mean, it's one of those things all over again. So, you know, I hope that, you know, she just said, or apparently it came out of the Daily Mail, that she told a friend she had 2 videotapes of very high level politicians in the United States having sex with minors. I don't want to see those tapes, obviously, but let's hope that those tapes get into the hands of law enforcement. Let's hope that she does reveal some damaging information, but I'm not holding out that much hope, Jason. I'm not saying she's going to die like Epstein, although that is possible, but I feel like this might not really amount to much, and it might be a disappointment, but
well, no, let's talk about that for a second, because I think
Sure.
the tapes are important. I had to do a whole video on that because that same woman, who's her friend, I watched her on the Who Killed Jeffrey Epstein Investigative Discovery series. Now, that 3-part series was far superior to the Netflix series in that it actually asked the question whether Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were working for intelligence services, including the Mossad. Now, they left Acosta out of that, they left Adnan Khashoggi out of that, but they went further than any other mainstream piece I've ever seen, and they kind of left it open for a season 2. To me, I don't trust anything out of Ghislaine Maxwell's mouth, and for her to have copies of all this stuff, it would have had to be digitized, which has never been proven. You know, they got that safe with Epstein in New York. They said they had what? They had discs with images on them, and they had a bunch of different images. Videotapes have never been confirmed, although they've talked about videos. The question is, would she be smart enough to duplicate those and then keep them somewhere safe? You know, we've always heard about the dead man switch. Where's Epstein's dead man switch? There's no dead man switch. There never has been. We've never seen a dead man switch in history. If anybody can point to a successful dead man switch, I'm still waiting. And I really feel like what she's doing is what she did in the beginning when Epstein got arrested, putting disinformation out there after her intelligence handlers were not able to protect her in the manner she thought. Let's go back. When Epstein was first arrested, where did they find her? They said she was in Boston with that tech millionaire. And then literally within a week's time, we had those photographs of her that were obviously photoshopped at that In-N-Out burger. That was complete disinformation. Turns out that same tech millionaire in Boston is the one that set up the LLC that paid $1.1 million cash for that New Hampshire estate. So they started to do that in September, and it closed in December. How long she's been there is anybody's guess, but I can tell you that the property itself did not have that large-scale house on it 2 years ago. In fact, the guest house was the house on that property. The only reason I know that is when me and the Jackmans went to her hideout in New Hampshire, somebody who was on the local city council went up the driveway. It was almost like a tourist spot. And when he came back down, he said, I was here a couple years ago. He goes, that property didn't even exist. He's like, the guest house was the main house. So they had to put that up pretty quick. There are a lot of questions. I don't know that we're going to get answers. I know that now we're waiting till the 14th for this virtual hearing. I know that people like Alan Dershowitz are unabashedly defending this woman with what I feel like is such an arrogance. It's dangerous, right? Like a guy like that who has been accused of sexual abuse, was a lawyer for Epstein, and then a lawyer for Trump in the Ukraine gate scandal, feels like he's untouchable. That's not a good sign. And then when you have other people like Geraldo Rivera openly calling her a socialite and saying that they're basically putting her in solitary confinement to torture her, that's also not a good sign. I don't think they can kill her, but I didn't think they couldn't kill Epstein twice. So anything is on the table. But you really believe that now this extra push for Q and whatever's going on with Wayfair is to distract from the real crimes of Ghislaine Maxwell. By the way, that there was a new superseding indictment released, I believe, either yesterday or today that goes beyond the one we all saw from New York.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually see the new indictment, Jason, so you have to tell me what it says. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, my feeling is that something about this is making Trump's people nervous. That's my sense. And that was also my sense when Epstein got arrested, is that Trump has a lot to say about people that he despises, that he hates. And what he had to say about Epstein was very, very curiously minimalist. Let's say he had very. I think this is going. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, we just dropped you for a second, but you're back. Go ahead.
Oh. So I mean, I think that on some level, this will come back to haunt Trump, maybe in some way. But you're right, Jason. I think that it's not a good sign when you see people like Alan Dershowitz being so brazen and basically saying, "Yeah, release the tapes. I want to see these tapes." So I'm kind of two minds about it. I mean, I think that, and then I'm getting sort of suckered in by this idea that Trump's poll numbers are actually having a real impact on him. I still think Trump's going to win a second term, but I do see an increase in the desperation of Q and Q supporters leading up to the election. And I do think that's going to play out in a crazier way than we've seen so far. And I just hope it just doesn't turn violent, Jason. I mean, because that's my concern, is that after the QAnon supporters have taken this oath, that it's now can become a flash mob situation where if Q wanted to, could just flash mob a group of Q supporters anywhere they want, armed and ready to go to fight whoever, the left, Antifa, BLM, Muslim Brotherhood, whatever. I mean, because the QAnon enemy of the day keeps switching. It's basically anyone who's an enemy of the Trump movement, and that's where I'm worried it's going to go. And I don't know if you saw Tim Heidecker actually tried to interview one of these congressional candidates who was a Q supporter, and the guy dodged all the questions. He acted like he didn't know what Q was. He acted like he just played dumb the whole time. And it's like, dude, you have videos and tweets all over your Twitter page talking about QAnon. So they're even these politicians who are running as QAnon supporters are playing this sly game too. They're promoting Q online, and then when they are asked about it, they're like, "Oh no, I don't know anything about that," And I wanted to leave you with this, Jason. I find this interesting because after I did the podcast, a lot of people have been asking me why hasn't anybody in the mainstream media asked Trump or asked any mainstream politician about Q? And in terms of asking mainstream politicians about Q or mainstream media, I actually wonder if some of these people are afraid to actually address it seriously. And here's one example I'm talking about. So Hillary Clinton was finally asked directly about QAnon in an Atlantic article. And here's what she said. Clinton said, I just get under their skin unlike everybody else. If I didn't have Secret Service protection going through my mail, finding weird stuff, tracking the threats against me, which are still very high, I would be worried. She says, I don't think until relatively recently, most people understood how well organized they were and how many different components of their strategy have been put in place. She doesn't directly address Q there. It's like she's just addressing sort of the overall climate of conspiracy stuff. And I think that's a dodge. I think Hillary Clinton knows exactly what QAnon is. She's not an idiot. Do you think she doesn't know exactly what this thing is that evolved out of Pizzagate is? So I think that's telling, and I think it shows that these politicians and mainstream media people are keeping their distance from it still because maybe they don't want to embolden it. Maybe they are worried that if they start talking about it too much, Q will turn up the heat. You know, I don't know, but there's a strange disconnect, and the media has really only started to take it seriously again recently. So I don't know if that's going to do it any good, but I mean, someone does need to ask Trump people about it. Like someone in an interview with Trump needs to be like, okay, what is QAnon, Mr. Trump? Like, tell us what you think about it, you know? It'll be interesting to see what his answer would be. I'm sure he'd give a bizarre roundabout answer, but this needs a lot more exploration. And, you know, I recommend people check out the Q Anonymous podcast, which is constantly covering this, and check out my podcast, which is a two-parter. So, yeah, for Media Roots Radio.
And you've got both of them up here, right here at MediaRoots.org. You can check him out at averyheavyagenda.com. Follow him at Fluorescent Gray, and go check out Maine Politics on A Very Heavy Agenda's YouTube channel. Robbie, is there anything else you want to leave my audience with?
No, just don't trust the plan. I mean, what's the old X-Files adage? Trust no one, right? So why are you trusting QAnon? I mean, really, just think about it that way. Like, why would you trust some random person on the internet? I mean, I don't really trust any people I follow politically unless like I know them in real life, unless they're my pal. So it's like, why would you trust this anonymous poster who's broken every promise they've ever made? So I know that's not going to really convince anybody, but I guess that's what I'll just leave everybody with.
No, I'm with you 100%. And Robbie, again, we got to get together when I get back into New York so we can do a longer broadcast. But I thank you, brother, and I'm going to go over some more of the Wayfair stuff after Robbie leaves. So thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it.
Take care, man.
Later on.
Good to talk to you.
You got it. There goes Robbie Martin. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about this whole Wayfair thing is that people are discussing that there are photoshopped books in the background that also may have some codes. And it does look like some of these books are indeed photoshopped in. The question again becomes, is this more proof that there is some validity to the Wayfair thing, or are these more of the type of breadcrumb scenarios that are out there to kind of poison the well? Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get it? I think that also has a very real possibility. It gives you yet another breadcrumb to go down, another breadcrumb to go down, another breadcrumb to go down. And you're in this perpetual state of researching nonsense when there are a ton of real things out there to research. NXIVM is very real. Epstein is very real. The Franklin scandal is very real. The finders are very real. Guess what? QAnon brought you none of that. None of the original research. Zero, zip, zilch. You want to learn about real human trafficking? Go dig into Sandusky. Go read John DeCamp's book and the Nick Bryant follow-up. You're going to find a lot of stuff that's been out there for a very, very long time. So folks, thumbs this video up, subscribe, share, join the Burmis Brigade. Remember, all my stuff is free. You can check out all of my documentary films right now, free of charge, online. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. Shade's so important right now. I want to remind everybody, I am fully demonetized on this platform. $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. Big donors, I need you now more than ever. And the thing is, guys, I don't play to the crowd, okay? I don't sit here and pick up a hot topic and see that it's trending and go, oh, that's the next thing to jump on. I use a thing called discernment. And I call upon my viewers, my followers, if you will, okay, the Burmist Brigade, my friends, to send me information one way or the other, confirming or debunking. Because I actually had somebody out there look at my tweets and go, why do you want to debunk this? It's real simple. Number one, I don't put out disinfo. Number two, I don't like child trafficking. I don't like child rape. I think it's repulsive. I think it's disgusting. I want to expose it for sure. But by exposing bullshit that decredits me or discredits me and my work all the way around. So why would you want, first of all, why would you want a large sex trafficking ring of children to be real? I wish there were no real sex trafficking rings, okay? But if this is real, man, keep sending me the stuff. Send me more info on it, because I'll cover it. That's the bottom line. So thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Remember, we're doing it 3 to 7 times a day. You can find all those documentary films right here in my playlist section. You can also check me out on Rockfin. Remember, guys, this isn't about left or right. This isn't orange man bad. That's not it. That's not what we do here. When Trump does something good, like get us out of the World Health Organization, we talk about it. When he funds Bill Gates vaccines and it's bad, we talk about it. We talk about it. We talk about it. We take opinions from all directions, and we don't believe truth over facts like Joe Biden says, just so you know, okay? The truth is the truth, and it's based in facts. So have your facts ready and stack them up and get out there and make a difference. Remember, this is somebody telling you to trust a plan while Julian Assange rots in prison. It disgusts me. I'll see you guys on the flip side.